frustration over the slow pace of land reform in South Africa has been mounting, and the new Expropriation Act aims to accelerate the redistribution of land in the country.
An Expropriation Act that we've had in South Africa, that we've been using before the enactment of this new one, was the 1975 Act. And this is really a tool that governments use every single day when, for example, they need land or property for a public purpose. That would include things like for infrastructure development, or to build a public school, or just down the road from here to build a Gautrain. And now it's become officially an act as of the 24th of January 2025.
The act has already sparked a backlash from the DA and the Freedom Front Plus. Both parties, which are part of the South African coalition government, argued that while land reform is necessary, the process of passing this law was flawed.
I yesterday wrote directly to President Ramaphosa to do the following things: to object in the strongest possible terms to the fact that he simply signed the Expropriation Act this week in contravention of a clear legal opinion and concerns submitted by the Minister of Public Works that the act is in fact unconstitutional.
Donald Trump has also announced that he will end aid to South Africa over alleged land seizures. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed a law that allows some land to be confiscated without compensation. Other African countries will also be affected by the US president's order to cut overseas aid to slash billions from the federal budget.
Donald Trump has turned his eyes to South Africa.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
Trump has threatened to cut off all funding to South Africa until an investigation into alleged land confiscation is carried out. Trump's threat comes after South African leaders introduced a law allowing the state to seize privately owned land or property for public use. South Africa rejects the allegation, saying the law is similar to ones other governments like the UK already have.
Because you passed an Expropriation Act, therefore Trump will withhold funding to South Africa. And I said, let's not immobilize Africa. Let's withhold minerals to US. That is it. If they don't give us money, let's not give them minerals.
The new law allows for the state to take land without compensation under certain circumstances and if it serves the public's interest. Land ownership has long been a divisive issue in South Africa, where most private farmland is owned by white people, who make up less than 8% of the population, 3 decades after the end of apartheid. The Expropriation Act, South Africa says, is aimed at addressing this economic and racial inequality.
Well, I regret to say that I think President Trump was ill-informed about what is happening in South Africa. And I think if he had taken time to get better information from us, he would have been much better informed, and his comments would have been better appreciated by South Africans. Now, we have sent clear messages to the State Department and indeed to the US government about the process that we are involved in. We are involved in a process of consultation and broad discussion on the land issue. And I've often said that the land issue was the original sin that was committed in South Africa when colonialists came.
Things might soon become very different for this particular South African farmer. Johan is on the list of white farmers whose land is targeted for expropriation.
So we're producing about 250,000 boxes of arrows per year. But it runs right down to that store there at the bottom, and then it turns that way.
He bought this 130-hectare avocado farm 7 years ago. But this isn't the farm the government is claiming. Johan has another 3,300-hectare private hunting reserve on the border with Zimbabwe.
You need a long period of time to breed up a proper breeding stock. As you can see, those Nyala bulls are beautiful. Look at this. It's a long-term investment.
After 20 years of investment, both his business plan and his dream are now in jeopardy. Several communities lay claim to the land, considering it to have been theirs before apartheid. Then a mining company was granted the right to prospect in the area, which is rich in coal. And so in 2013, the government began to negotiate.
We're willing to negotiate, but then the price must be right. We said we want 200 million rand. They said they're going to give us 20 million rand. When we got the letter, within 7 days they want to inspect the farm and they want us to hand over the keys. All of a sudden you don't have a farm, so what must you do? The only thing that you can do is you can go to court, which we did.
The law that protects private property has been on his side so far. Johan still has the keys to his house, but for how long? The threat hasn't gone away. The authorities want to amend the constitution to remove the need to negotiate. Farmers are united.
So we're against expropriation without compensation. It also shows a disrespect for property rights. And we actually said that we send out a hand of friendship to anybody that would want to join this fight.
I want to say, Kefatsila Runa. The land is ours.
It looks like the authorities will have a fight on their hands. In South Africa, less than 20% of land has changed hands in the last 20 years. President Cyril Ramaphosa wants to speed up the process. In October, he personally oversaw the handing over of more than 4,000 hectares to a Zulu community.
And as we make history today, we are also commencing a rolling mass land distribution program in our country. We are going to be returning land in a massive way.
The sheer scale of the unused farmland is perceived as an injustice in itself. And even if only a small fraction actually belongs to white farmers, the prospect of redistribution appeals to all disadvantaged communities.
These bills are not new. They went into those ministries, knowing very well that expropriation bill has been passed. And it's just waiting the signature. The president, before he signs, he follows the constitution. So he can't sign something that is unconstitutional. If the DA and their partners, they believe what the president has signed is unconstitutional, then they have got an avenue to go to court.
Vineyard owners are afraid that their workers will one day reclaim the land that the laborers have always lived on. The number of evictions is multiplying. Around 50 families here have received letters from the landowners asking them to leave their property.
I've been working on farms for 51 years, and yet to this day I cannot say to my children, this here is our house. We're going to end up burning down their houses if they don't start listening to us. We don't want to do that. But we have to own something. Up until now, nothing has changed. Still, I really believe each one of us has the right to own something.
Madeleine is a social worker who helps farm laborers threatened with eviction. There are over 200,000 people in this situation in the Western Cape. These workers, the first to fall victim to the growing panic among white farmers, are gripped by the debate over expropriation.
I don't think in the Western Cape the municipalities have enough land to provide all these people with housing. Where will they then stay? Because this is the area that they've been living for all of their lives. So because it's such a huge amount of people, I think this is a really good chance for the government to take this farm as a land expropriation farm.
For more reaction to the act, we're joined in studio now by Andile Mngxitama, a member of parliament for the MK party. He serves on the House's Portfolio Committee on Land and Rural Development. Andile, good morning, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the invite, Ms. Chava, and greetings to the viewers at home.
Now, in your most recent tweet, you posted, or X rather, Ramaphosa had signed the so-called Expropriation Act, which is basically land expropriation without expropriation of land, and the sky is evil. I shall be breaking down the act to show it's a farce and a sellout project. Anyone who thinks Ramaphosa can expropriate land is lost. I mean, you've gone as far as also calling it a con. Could you walk us through your reasons for this stance?
Indeed, this act is a colossal betrayal of our people. There's no way where it says land expropriation without compensation. There were public hearings. The overwhelming majority of our people were very clear, gave the ANC the mandate to expropriate land without compensation. In this act, there's not one sentence that says land expropriation without compensation. And that is why MK Party is going to bring a private member's bill to amend Section 25 of the Constitution, and we're taking it back to 1652 with the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck and his gang. And because that's the time all our problems started. We can't talk about land without talking about Jan van Riebeeck's arrival. That is the cut-off date, and MK Party is going to bring this matter back to Parliament, and let's see if these political parties are going to serve our people or betray them again.
There are significant concerns, and understandably so, that radical land reform could plunge South Africa into great economic disparity. So how do you then propose that we go about this without sinking the entire country into absolute anarchy?
You know, we are talking about redress. How can that be not a good thing? When right now, over 70% of the land is in the hands of a minority. By the way, a large portion of South African black people are without food security as we speak. Farmers in South Africa produce for the market and for profits and for exports. They are not addressing the issues of our people. So only from that point of view, in fact, it would be good enough reason to expropriate this land. But you know, we are responding to the hysteria of land thieves. We must not be concerned about the reactions of land thieves. Really, if we are serious about redress and making sure that historical injustices are addressed, we must simply say the land was taken from black people and that land must be returned, period. There's no more conversation that must go on. Why must we pay compensation? This is evil, and it is there in the Constitution that when you want your land back, you must pay these people a market-related compensation. Since time immemorial, I have been working with labor tenants, one of the most oppressed people in this country, and they remain landless, they remain abused on farms. It's a shocking situation, by the way. If you go to the experiences of our people up to today on farms, these white farmers are really evil. They even kill them, and the police, they control the police and the criminal justice system in these farmland situations. We have been agitating for land. That is why I'm in MK now, and I believe that we are on the right track as MK to call for proper expropriation of land without compensation, going back right to 1652 to address this question once and for all.